And I was like, why did my rent go up so high? And he goes, you want me to be honest? And my landlord was like, yeah. He goes, we did not think you were going to make it. He goes, you had failure written all over you. Having that growth mindset and knowing, that I can't do it all. I had to be known as the owner. Now, I don't even want to be known.
You're listening to the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast, featuring real business owners telling real stories about their real business experiences. Here are your hosts, John Chiappetta and Eric Jorn.
Welcome to another episode of Blood, Sweat, and Business. Today's guest, we have Kris Schoenberger, BBQ'd Productions and Station 51 here in Antioch. Great to have you with us, Kris.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're super excited.
So, Kris, you got a bunch of restaurants, man. You a glutton for punishment, or?
I don't know. I kind of say it was like faith. Again, there's everything happens for a reason. It wasn't the mission to have this happen. It wasn't the path. But it just kind of unfolded that way, I guess you can say.
Okay.
So,
I mean, did you start off, were you a cook? How did you get into
no,
wanting to have restaurants?
I was in law enforcement. I worked for a local police department. I got laid off in 2009. And I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. My mom was from New York City. And so we had created and designed a food truck style company that she was familiar with back in New York City called Mr. Softy. And it was a soft serve ice cream truck that had like this special type of ice cream. Well, we were like, oh, let's do that, because I want to be an entrepreneur. And the health department here would not give us the health department license for it. You can't sell a non-prepackaged item out of a truck. Huh. So at the time, she's like, what else I want to be an entrepreneur. She's like, what else, would you want to do? And I really liked cooking and, cooking on the grill. Nothing like being on a hot grill on a hot day and just cooking. Like, there's something about it. I don't know what it is. And so she's like, well, why don't you open up a catering company? I was like, nobody uses caterers. And she's like, everybody uses caterers. I'm like, no. So we just kind of started with something like a little, just kind of cooking for friends and family and having like little parties, and kind of unraveled. And then a friend of mine said, hey, you're having a lot of fun. You want to do that for my wedding? And I'm one of those people, like, if you like ask me a question that's a challenge and tell me that I can't do something, I'm like, sure, bet, let's go. So I was like, sure, I'll do your wedding. And he's like, you've done this before? I'm like, yeah, all the time. And I've never done it before, ever. And so I asked no questions. I just said, yeah, I'll do your wedding. And I asked no questions. I asked, I didn't ask when it was going to be, where it was going to be at. And the most important question was how many people. So like, I want to say it was like 2 weeks prior to his wedding. I'm like, Taylor, we need to get together and like talk about your wedding. And I'm like, how many people are you going to have? And he's like, 350.
Oh.
And again, I've never done this before. So I had no equipment, nothing. I had one of those little Weber grills that you put in your backyard that you put the charcoal in. It looks like a bobber almost. That's what I had.
Wow.
And so, we came up with this menu, and the menu was extensive. He's like, are you comfortable with this? And I'm like, yeah, I got it. No problem. So I call up my brothers, and I'm like, hey, I need some help. And my one brother's like, what did you agree to do? And I'm like, I'm going to cater this wedding. He goes, when the hell have you ever catered a wedding before? I haven't. I was like, can you help me? And he's like, you're dumb.
As brothers will say.
Yeah. And I'm like, I was like, come on, man, I got this. And he's like, you have no clue what you're doing. You're going to fail at this miserably. And day of the wedding, fast forward to the day of the wedding, and it was incredible. And it was literally like I knew what I was doing. And wow. People were asking for my cards, and they were like, hey, can you come do this event for me? And blah, 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 blah. And I was like, at the time, I had gotten a job with the cable company, and I was a sales guy at the cable company. So I was handing out my card that said cable guy. And it had, and I wrote underneath there, I was like, also cook. And I'd give my card out. So when people would call my phone and I'd answer, thank you for calling Comcast. This is Kris. They're like, yeah, are you also the cook guy? And I'm like, yeah, what can I do for you? And so then I just started getting people calling and saying, hey, can you cook for this? Can you cook for that? And it just kind of rolled from there. And, we did that for a few years. And then all of a sudden my mom was like, hey, let's open up a catering brick and mortar. And I was like, all right, cool. You know, because at the time we were doing it out of the house. You know, so you're washing big sheet trays in your kitchen sink. At the time, which was my wife. I'm sorry, at the time it was my girlfriend. Now it's my wife. She's like, this is getting old. Like, I hate you washing these big pans and like the grease is all over the floor. And I was like, don't worry about it. The dogs will lick it up. And so we found this place in Grays Lake, and it was small. And I went and, you know, I spoke to the landlords. I met with them. And at the time, it felt like a deal that was too good to be true because the rent was so cheap. And there was like 40 seats out front. It used to be like a little sushi restaurant. Actually, it was called I Love Sushi. And so when we met with the landlord, he said that the rent was going to be $3,000. And so in my eyes, I was like, can I generate $3,000 a month in revenue to pay for the place? I wasn't looking at everything else. I wasn't looking at like, I got to pay for food. I got to pay for gas. I got to pay for electric. The rent was $3,000. All I have to do is do $3,000 in sales and I can pay for that place. That's all I thought about. So we decided that we were going to do it, and we signed the lease. And I'll fast forward, and then I'll come back. But I'll fast forward to like 3 years later or 4 years later when my lease expired, and I had to renew it, which I did. And my rent went up significantly. And I was like, why did my rent go up so high? And he goes, you want me to be honest? And I'm like, and my landlord was like, yeah. He goes, we did not think you were going to make it. He goes, so we gave you like a really good deal just to try to help you out. But he goes, you had failure written all over you.
Yes.
And I'm like, all right, I guess I can agree with that. You know, he's like, I'm not being mean. He goes, you've never had a restaurant. You've never been in the industry. You're just cooking on the weekend for your friends and your family. He goes, we wanted to try to like help you, but we also didn't want to set up ourselves for failure. So we had this catering spot, I guess you can call it. And so, like, I want to say maybe it was like a month before we were ready to open, my mom says, hey, there's 40 seats out front. Why don't we open up a restaurant? And I'm like, what? She's like, let's open up a restaurant. And I'm like, I've never done that. You've never done that. There's no way we can do this. She goes, absolutely. She's like, I ran a cafeteria at Kmart. And I'm like, a cafeteria at Kmart? That is not even close to the same thing. She's like, yeah, it is. She goes, come on, I'll help you. No, we don't know what we're doing. Like, I don't even know, like, how to get a cash register. Like, no. She's like, come on, we can't fail. And she said these magic words, I'll help you. And those 3 words are what sets up my life. And I'll explain. I'll help you. I'm a mama's boy. My mom was my best friend. And everything about my life revolved around my mom. She is the one that made me who I am today, gave me my worth ethic. I had my first job at 7 as a paper boy, because back in the day you could be a paper boy. My mom was the boss, so you had to be 10, but my mom put it in her name, and I went and did the papers at 7, so I was running the streets at 7 years old. And so when she said those words, like, I'll help you, in my eyes back then, that was like the calming part that, like, okay, like, I'm not going to fail. The other advice that she gave me was that we couldn't fail, because that if we did everything we did with love, that we wouldn't fail. So we started, getting things set up. I ended up buying restaurant supplies and equipment from a place that went out of business in Libertyville. So my tables, when I opened up, had the name of the other business written on them inside my restaurant, because we opened this place with like no money, like literally no money, because it wasn't the plan. And so we had the name BBQ'd Productions because we created backyard barbecues. We weren't a barbecue company, so our first menu when we first opened was like burgers, brats, hot dogs, Philly cheesesteaks. We were known for like these like slinky fries, and that's what we sold. So when we first opened the first night, everyone's like, hey, where's the brisket? Where's the, I'm like, what's that? Like, where's the pulled pork? And I'm like, Mom, can you make some pulled pork in the crock pot? Because again, we had no experience. And so the first day was, I remember it was yesterday. It was like an overnight success. Like, we sold out of everything we had. Our friends and family came, and it was nuts. Like, something I never anticipated. And while it was nuts, it still kind of gave me like that sense of like, hey, I think I'm in the right spot. because I felt good. And so my mom had made all the sides. I had taken care of like all the main meats. And so at the end of the night, she's like, I think we might want to consider this barbecue thing because everybody asked, where's the ribs? Where's the brisket? Where's the pork? And I'm like, how are we going to learn that? She's like, easy, Google. Everything's on Google. And I'm like, all right, fine. I was like, you go home, get some rest. I'm going to go home, get some rest, and we'll reconvene tomorrow. We'll write down the sides that you have. We'll write down my stuff, and we'll kind of go in the middle. So that's what we did. She went home. I went home. Next day we came in. My wife and I were kind of working around the restaurant, and then my mom had never showed up. And so the night before she had left, she had told me that she had an earache, and she was going to go to the doctor in the morning, and then she'd come in after the doctor's appointment. Well, you know, as you're working in the restaurant, sometimes your day gets away from you, and she never showed up. And so at the end of the day, I was like, hey, we called my mom Dude because she was one of the dudes. And I was like, hey, dude never came in today. And she's like, yeah. She's like, we'll give her a call. So we called her. There was no answer. And just something told me, like, you know, like how you have that feeling? And I was like, I'm like, we didn't hear from her. My mom was a Facebook junkie. She posted nothing on Facebook that day. And I was like, let's go over and check on her. And so we drove over to her house. She lived in Round Lake. We lived around Lake Beach. And we drove over there and opened up the front door. I'm sorry, I saw her car in the driveway, and I was like, okay, that's weird. And I still remember it was yesterday. But I remember going to the front door, and she had a dog. And the dog was barking in a bark that I'd never heard before. And I was like, even now I'm getting that freaking pit in my stomach again. It's been 10 years or 9 years or whatever. But I walk in the door. I see her phone sitting on the counter. I run upstairs, and there's my mom on the bed, and she's gone. And, you know, at that time, you know, I see her. And so, you know, I was in law enforcement for 2 years as a community service officer in a local town. You know, we go through certain trainings. And so, like, I started doing CPR of what I learned. And it worked. I got her back. Called 911. And the crazy thing is the first person who showed up was one of my best friends.
Wow.
And so we'll fast forward real quick. That best friend is the guy who helped me create Station 51 8 years later. So backwards. So he comes, you know, we're able to get her back. Then the paramedics come. Then they lose her. And it kind of just goes back and forth. And long story short of it, she ends up like completely passing away within 24 hours. And so, you know, that was a gut blow. Because for me, that was the person who was supposed to kind of like help me. And so looking back now, those 3 words that I mentioned earlier, I will help you, for me is what determined where I went from there, because I was going to give up. Like, this is my friend. This is my mom. She was the one who gave me the idea. We were supposed to do it together as a family, and it's gone. And so I decided to push forward. I had some people pushing me and some support, and you know, that is really the reason. I shouldn't say the reason. That is for me what I feel is what sets me up for where I'm at today, because nothing else explains. And I believe in a higher power. I believe in that when somebody passes away, that they're still there, you know. And so to me, nothing explains how you have a kid from Round Lake Beach who's never been in the industry, has no clue what the hell he's doing, how he goes from 1 restaurant to 5, just bought number 6 in 8 years. And it's one of those things where it's like, how? Why? But someone's helping me.
Wow. That's like the most compelling story I think we've had on our podcast.
Oh, for sure.
So, I mean, there's, I'm not going to lie, I miss her like crazy. Our first year in business, at the store in Third Lake, we did just under $3 million in sales. So again, somebody who has no clue what they're doing, went from 0 to $3 million in sales. Now between all of our stores, we do, you know, close to 6, I think.
Wow.
And again, I'm still learning as I go. I still make mistakes every single day, you know, and I think that's what, you know, a lot of people tend to forget, you know, and it's like, especially us, like the world of social media, is that everyone just wants to bash everybody, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And there's specific websites I feel like are set up for that, right?
Yeah.
Especially locally.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm a mama's boy, still am to this day, you know? So it's like those words actually do something to me in a negative way. Like, it hurts, you know, because a lot of people don't know the story, and they don't know like where I started and where I went to. And, you know, I battled depression as a kid, and, you know, went through some really tough stuff in grade school. And, you know, I'm lucky to be alive. I truly am. And so in my eyes, like, I'm a winner no matter what, you know. And it's like, I tell people all the time, you know, even as an owner, I still burn burgers. I still burn cookies. I still burn butter. Like, we all do. It's called life. It's called making mistakes. But everybody wants to like just destroy somebody when they make a mistake, you know. And it's like, I can't tell you anywhere in life that I haven't gone where someone's made a mistake. But it tends to be in the industry of the restaurant industry that you make a mistake and they want to murder you for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like you're right. I feel like people try to hang you out to dry out there, and they'll bash you for, you know, just putting yourself out there.
And there's so much emotion in it.
Yes.
You know,
right.
It's crazy how much emotion people have when it comes to food.
It is.
You know, and I'm a fatty, so I definitely understood. I definitely understand like how people can get it, but man, some people take it to a whole new level.
So mad.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
fries are cold. I'm gonna flip this table over. It's like, all right, I'll make you some new ones.
And the thing about making mistakes is, like, if you're not making mistakes, are you really growing? Are you really learning? Because if you just stay in the comfort zone, it's harder to make mistakes. But if you're looking to grow and stretch, like, you have to make mistakes and fail to learn. It's just how we learn.
Even from an owner standpoint, like, you know, there's so many moving pieces that go into how a business works or how a restaurant works. You know, there's so much that goes into it, from the vendor delivering it to the sales rep putting in the right stuff to checking it in to, you know, heck, we just got a case of tomatoes in brand new from the vendor the other day, and half the case was moldy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like we have to go through and check that, and I'm depending on people to do that. You know, it's a people and processes type of industry. You know, and it's like, unfortunately, you know, the labor market has gotten tougher and tougher for everybody. It's not just us; it's everybody.
Yep.
And so, you know, we try to develop, we try to coach and stuff like that. But again, there's so many moving pieces to the puzzle, and mistakes happen. It happens. I mean, heck, it happens in law enforcement. It happens in trucking. It happens everywhere.
Yep.
So,
it always amazes me. You know, we work with a ton of different business owners, and I think about all the moving pieces in each individual business, and I'm like, how do you just? Yeah, you started from scratch, right? You're just grilling burgers on the side, and grew it into this, you know, restaurant group, we'll call it. How did you go from, you know, not knowing anything to learning all these different moving pieces, and then, you know, talk to us about
So what I learned is that I try to be the dumbest person in the room, and, you know, some people might laugh. Some people don't even realize that I don't even have a key to any of my restaurants. I had to call a couple weeks ago for someone to come let me into my own store. I don't have keys to my building, because I try. If I have the key, that means I got to go. So, you know, we have different ways of getting into some of them. You know, like we have lock boxes on some of the stores and stuff like that. But like most of the stores that we have, there's keys. Like I don't even have a key to get into Station 51. Like I had to call the other day to my manager. Like, hey, how do I get in?
That's cool.
So always being able to, like, I don't drink. So like always being able to find somebody else who does drink or knows alcohol or knows beer, and let them make those decisions. And so I think the biggest thing of how you go from having nothing or knowing nothing to going to the next level of being able to get to where I am now is not being afraid of letting other people make the decision. Not being afraid of not knowing the answer, because 9 times out of 10, you can hire somebody who does know the answer, and then they will teach you. So like, even when I first started, I had not a clue how to cut brisket. I still have the video. I still have the video on my phone of the very first person that I hired that was my quote unquote chef. and how he cut brisket and what he threw away. I still have the video on my phone. I still play it for people that work for me now. And if I would have known what I know now back when he was here, our profit would have been through the roof, because the top part of the brisket, which is known as the decal, which we use for burn ends, my first chef threw it away. Yeah. He's like, oh, this is fatty. Nobody eats that.
Whoa.
And I literally have videos upon videos of 8, 10, 12, 14 briskets of him cutting it off and throwing it right in the trash. So it makes I keep it. I keep it so that way I know what I don't ever want to go back to. Because now that's the goal. Like, we sell out of that every single day. We sell out of it. But again, I had to hire somebody else that was smarter than me, that knew, hey man, like, you're throwing away money. Like, we're gonna take that and turn it into profit. When I first opened, I didn't have beer knowledge or beer choices. I let somebody, take care of that. And it's like, I know, yes, draft beer, you have craft beer, and like those are popular. But our number one selling beer at all of our restaurants, Miller and Coors. Mm-hmm. It's number one selling, because that's what everyone drinks. So it's like, we can go the whole craft route and get rid of it all. But like, somebody once taught me, like, hey, you got to have these staples, because those are the number one selling and the number one profiting thing. Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's what drives success, is profit. Because if there's no profit, you don't grow. And so, again, I didn't know that, but I hired somebody who taught me that. I had an accounting team that taught me, different tax laws and different, how to pay somebody, and like how you have workers' comp. When I first opened, I didn't have workers' comp. Didn't know about it. Oh, that's one thing.
They'll say to let you know real quick, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, and I also learned the most expensive loan you can ever take is one against the government. Yeah.
That's for sure.
Always pay your 941s.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because there was like, I was like, my first accounting team I had, I was like, yeah, don't pay those. I'm going to use that money for something else right now. They're like, I was like, I'll eventually get to it. Oh my God. They came knocking on the door, legit. Yeah. Knocked on the door, and they're like, we need our money. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get it to you guys next month. They're like, no. That's not your money. And I'm like, what? And the guy was actually really cool, and he actually sat down and explained to me. He goes, listen, you're holding that money out of a check. That's not yours. You're just holding it and you're supposed to give it to us. And so I was like, oh, that makes sense. Nobody ever taught me that. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, I learned the fast way. So back to yours, I know it's a roundabout answer to your question, but it's always always having the ability to let somebody else teach you something. It's like, even now, like, if I tell my employees, like, listen, if you can teach me something different that I didn't know about, or a different way to do things, then we win. I'll give you a prime example. Yesterday at the store, I have a cashier. I think she's 15 or 16 years old. I actually called my manager because I was like, this is great. So yesterday we were slow. And I'm sitting on the tables, and I asked my bartender, I was like, hey, do you think we're slow enough we can cut the cashier? She's like, yeah, probably. Well, I didn't know that our server didn't show up, so I only had one floor person on the floor. So I waved the cashier girl over, and I was like, hey, you can go ahead and go home. It's a little slow, She's like, all right, cool. And all of a sudden, like 10 minutes later, she slowly comes up to me, and she's like twiddling her fingers, like you can tell she wants to say something. And I'm like, hey, what's up? She's like, I don't know if this is the right time to say this, or I'm not trying to be mean, but she goes, I think you're making a bad decision on sending me home. And I'm like, I'm like, why? She goes, just let me explain. She goes, you don't have another server here. She never showed up. So all you have is the bartender. So if you send me home, she just got 3 tables right now. She goes, at least I can help her with clearing and busing and food running and taking care of the front door. She goes, and I don't want to see our guests suffer if they come through the door and somebody comes through and she's busy doing something like that. So she's like, I just want to make sure the guest has a great experience, and I think it's a great idea if I stay. Wow. And I was like, right on, girl. I was like, absolutely. I was like, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know. She's like, you're not mad? And I'm like, no, you should own a restaurant. She goes, really? I'm like, yeah, that's a great decision. I'm like, more power to you. And she's like, I was so scared to tell you. And I'm like, no, that's great. Like, I didn't know. So yeah.
That's awesome. She's going to be great.
15 years old or 16 years old, and she's telling me what to do.
Well, most 15, 16 were probably, before you even said have a good day, they were probably out the door.
Oh, yeah. No, she was great, and you could tell, like, she was, like, so afraid to, like, correct me. And I called the manager. I was like, hey, Mike, just so you know, this girl just told me that she's not going home, and here's why.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like what you talked about, though. So I think most entrepreneurs, when they get into their business and they want to start a business, they're so focused on, I need to be the key person. I need to be the hero. I can't ask for help. All the things that you talked about doing is exactly what you should be doing. And most entrepreneurs' mindset, like, I'm going to go do this all myself because I need to save the money on that, instead of hiring out what you need to hire out for. Like, I don't want to hire another employee. I can't afford them. That's the dumbest thing you could do, especially if you can find one that's smarter, right? You always want to be the dumbest person in the room. That's a great mantra to live by.
Yeah, and the other thing is as I say life, but as work function goes on, and you have these people that come into your life or into your restaurant, a lot of them have great ideas. And so the other thing that was really big for me from a growth mindset is, that's the other thing too, like always having a growth mindset. And so as I go about my day, as I find things that, like, hey, is this, somebody taught me the advice, if you had 20 locations, could you be doing this? And that's how you grow. Because if you had 20 locations, could I be doing my own QuickBooks? Hell no.
Nope.
I'm trying to figure it out right now, but if I had 20 locations, can I wash dishes at every store? No. I love doing dishes. That's my favorite thing in the restaurant to do. But I can't do it if I have 20. And so having that growth mindset and knowing, that I can't do it all. And also, back when I first started, I had to be the guy. In my mind, I had to be the guy. I had to be the person that everybody knew. I had to be known as the owner. It just was in my head. Now, I don't even want to be known, And so my greatest attribute that made me proud is at Station 51, and my manager that I have there, it was actually my mom's neighbor. So I've known him for almost 20 years. And I will be in the store sitting with him. And we just did the wine walk this past weekend. And everybody shook his hand, said hello to him, and not one person acknowledged me. And I was like, this is fantastic.
That is awesome.
Everybody thinks he's the owner. And I was like, Mike, you can tell me you're the owner. You can tell me you're the Pope. You can tell me whatever you want. I want that, because the best, I don't say what's sort of not advice, but the best feeling in the world is when somebody thinks your employee is the owner.
100%.
It's the best thing in the world. And so rewind 6 years ago, I'd be upset. That's how much I've changed over the years, where it's like, I just want to be known. I don't even want to, I just want my staff to know that I'm there if they need it. But I'm just, now I'm worried about being a father. I'm worried about being a good husband and letting my team be able to grow and develop. And it's really changed from, being a restaurant owner to how can I change the lives of people that work for me or my community, And so I think a lot of people, when they get in the restaurant industry, it's got such a negative antidote to it. The old Gordon Ramsay thing. And when I first started, I was a Gordon Ramsay. I'm not going to lie. I yelled. I swore. I was an a-hole. I was a straight up a-hole. And I've made a lot of mistakes. I have terminated people that I look back at now and I'm like, man, I probably shouldn't have terminated them. But I've learned, I don't ever claim to know all the answers, or I don't ever claim to be right 100% of the time, but I have to make a decision sometimes, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. But I've had really great people work for me over the last 9 years. I haven't handled them all the best, but it's hard to make those decisions sometimes. And I don't ever claim to be perfect 100% of the time, and I don't ever claim to make the right decision 100% of the time, but I try to make the best decision possible. And so I always look out for the safety of my staff. I always look out for the benefit of the store. But as far as, your question, as far as growth mindset, and can I do that if I had 20 locations? I think I answered that in like a really long answer.
I mean, you gave us a lot of wisdom. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think like Eric was saying, and I just remember. I remember when I first started out. You came to the door. I opened it for you. You sat down. I did the tax return for you. I did the bookkeeping and all the payroll reporting. I couldn't imagine doing that today. I honestly wouldn't be good at it. The same way. No, I think there's a lot of power in that because I think people anticipate thinking that if I'm going to do this, I have to know A to Z about everything. It's good to know about what you're getting yourself into. But I think more importantly, know is that you got to always continue to grow. You always got to continue to suck in knowledge. And it's interesting what you're saying about how you're taking knowledge in from your employees. I think people don't realize how much knowledge you get from just from the people around you.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the ideas that we have, that we come up with, I never even came up with them. It's like I have an employee at one of my stores right now. He's never been in the industry, and his passion is ridiculous. Somebody called me the other day, like we gave him full blanche to the store. Like, here's social media access, here's all this. Like, he's got passion that I haven't seen in a long time. And I've had employees reach out to me saying, "Hey man, this guy's rejuvenating me." Oh. And I had a customer send me a thing. They're like, "We didn't even know that store had social media, but we just saw the guy that you had doing your social media, which is the manager that's there, and he needs a TV show because he's awesome. Really, really good." And he is his passion is just awesome, and he's doing some great things at that store. It's at our Kenosha location.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's so cool to see somebody that just takes what, you were once passionate. Well, you still are passionate about it, obviously, but, just sharing
different passion. It's different now. The passion before was about me and the success of me back in the day. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, I want to see other people be successful. And it's like, I'll tell you what, we just had an employee. It was my very first employee that we ever hired. Day one. We hired her. And I remember when my manager, Bill, at the time, hired her. I'll tell you a little funny. She came in the door and she was older, like really old. She was probably in her 60s. I might even be off a little bit on that. And I'm like, how's this girl going to bartend? But he's like, just trust me, she'll be great. I'm like, people are going to come in for the grandma? She was with me for 9 years. She became known as Barbecue Grandma, and she just retired from me.
Wow.
And she worked all through her life as a server and bartender, and she made it. And so for me, my success story is seeing somebody start with me in day one and retire 9 years later. And she's a part of our family. She still works at our wedding venue that we have. She still comes in and works as a bartender there. But I learned back then, you can never judge a book by its cover, because she created the regulars at our Third Lake store. And Darlene is a special person. She's a special person in my heart forever. And she truly is the definition of don't ever judge a book by its cover. Because this little old lady, she had everybody in that store, and they loved her. It's crazy. And it's funny because she ran that store all by herself Monday through Friday every single day.
Wow.
Crazy. She taught me a lot of things.
I like how you hit on the regulars. I'm not sure if most restaurant owners, well, I'm sure the restaurant owners understand this, how important your regulars are.
They are.
And how important it is for them to come in and see somebody that they want to see.
Yep.
It's not, you could have the best food, you could have the worst food sometimes. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, they're going to come in if your food's bad, but they want to see that people. Person. Yeah, that people connection's huge.
Yep.
100%.
There used to be a bar that I went to back in my day when I did drink. But there used to be a bar that I went to, and I literally went there every Friday night for the bartender because he was so funny. I literally had the best time of my life, and it's just because the guy was funny,
Yeah.
I mean, we did a Taco Tuesday at one restaurant for 3 years, and she got let go. And as soon as she did, we stopped going.
Yeah.
I think maybe we went 1 or 2 times, but then we realized that wasn't the food; it was
that interaction.
Relationship.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's interesting.
You're not in the food business, right? You're in the relationship business.
You're in the people business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, for me now, it's like, again, it's crazy the things that make me smile. It's like when the employee that you have working for you buys their first house because they're working for you, and you have an employee who buys their first car because they work for you. Like, these things are super cool. Like we just took over a wedding venue in Lake Villiers. And, you know, when we first started, you know, this catering concept back in 2009, and then we opened the first restaurant in 2014, you know, we were doing catering. Now the catering that we do, not even close to what we did back then. Like, if you see the production that my team produces at the wedding venue that we have, 5 class, 100%. Now, I'll be honest with you, when we were building out the place, and my team, which is led by what I would classify as one of the best in the business, Jay, when we were building out this place, the amount of money that he was spending,
of course,
and the things that he was spending money on, I'm like, bro, we really just spent $1,000 on a dresser from 1922? And he's like, yeah, but it's going to do this and it's going to do that. And I'm like, I just bought a dresser for $1,000 from 1922. And he's like, just trust me. And again, it goes back to one of those things where I was like, it's so hard, but okay. And then I saw it the other day at the wedding and I'm like, oh my God, that's ours? He goes, no, that's yours. And I'm like, told you. And I'm like, son of a biscuit. Like, God, that's incredible. And the weddings that he produces now at the mansion, I was like, I asked him, I said, Jay, you're a dude. Where in the hell did you earn this from? He's like, honestly, my wife and Pinterest. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He goes, I let all the girls do it. He goes, I just sit back and kind of control all the financials. And he goes, control the financials through you. And we just produce it. And it's like, man, but if you would ask me to do a wedding like that 9 years ago, there's no way we would even be anywhere close. But he again, hiring the right people. Like, I go to that place. I literally went there on. I went to the mansion on Friday. They had a 370 person wedding, and I'm like, cool. I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna wash dishes because that's what I like to do. I literally got there. I went there and I was in the way. They're like, can you just leave? You're kind of in our way. And I'm like, I'm bored. Can I do something? They're like, nope. We got it. Go. And I'm like, I just want something to do. They're like, fine, here, eat this. Like, that's not what I want to do. And I literally, it's funny. As I was backing my truck up in the parking lot, and my Mike, my area manager, he was pulling in, and he goes, you okay? You look sad. I'm like, they just kicked me out. Wow. And he goes, you can't help the dishes? I'm like, they got 4 dishwashers. And he's like, so what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of bored. So, yeah, it was funny.
I think that's how you know you made it, right? Yeah. You show up and you're just in the way.
I'm still getting around my head that he likes doing dishes. That's the craziest thing on the planet to me, man.
I love it.
That is so funny.
It's instant satisfaction. You know, it's like you get like, it is weird. I know it's not normal, but like, I literally, like, if my manager calls and says, hey, dishwasher called in, I'll be right in. I'll be right in.
That's so funny.
But it's what I enjoy, because it's like you get in, you got the 3-bay sink, you got the dishwasher. Now, back when I first opened, I didn't have a dishwasher, and I hated it. Like the machine.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I didn't have a machine.
Okay.
I washed everything in a 3-bay sink for the first 3 years.
Oh, yeah, it's got to be.
Oh, game changer. You know, so it's like you just get the 3-bay sink, you fill it up with the hot soapy water. You take that wand and you just spray everything down. You see all the grease that's coming right off the machine. It comes out sparkling. It's like, God, I want one in my house.
That would be nice to have at the house, wouldn't it?
I got one in my house. It's called my wife.
We'll make sure to not send this one.
When she listens to the podcast, just duck at that part.
No, she's amazing and I love her. So.
John, you love mowing the lawn, so I mean,
that's true.
You do?
Yeah, I'll take the lawn work all day long. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's goofy.
That's one thing
I'll tell you what. You can come. You'll do dishes at my house. I'll cut your lawn. How's that?
I got a crew for that too. Because again, if I had 20 houses, they can't cut my.
True.
So.
That's funny.
So at what point did you say I'm ready to start location number 2? That was it Lake Zurich?
Yeah. So that wasn't even on my mind. Wasn't even on the radar. And there's a funny story about it. So I was outside at Third Lake, and I think I was cleaning the smoker. I was doing something, and all of a sudden this white car pulls around on the backside. And at the time it was like, you know when you see something and like, you know it says something, but you didn't see it 100%, so you don't know exactly what it said? And it said Village. So like I didn't like comprehend what it was, but I knew it was somebody from a village, and I was like, and I thought it was my village, and I was like, can I help you? Because again, I was working on the smoker, I was putting meat in, and it was somebody from the village of Lake Zurich. And they're like, oh, we heard a lot about you. We heard a lot about your company. And so we came out here. We want to see your smoker look outside. And would you ever consider opening up a location in Lake Zurich? And I'm like, no. She's like, you wouldn't? I'm like, nope. She's like, but we have a couple locations that we think would be great for a barbecue restaurant. You wouldn't consider it? I'm like, no, sorry, thanks. She's like, all right, well, if you change your mind, here's my card. Then like 2 weeks later, maybe 3 weeks later, I get a phone call from a friend of mine who's a realtor. He's like, hey, man, have you ever considered opening up another location? I'm like, nope. He's like, I got a spot for you. I'm like, nope. He's like, would you at least come look at it? And I'm like, nope. He's like, it's a really nice building, and it's in Lake Zurich. And I'm like, are you working with the village? And he's like, no, but it's this really nice place. And he goes, I know what you do. And he goes, I think you do a really good job there. He's like, would you at least just come look at it with me? I'm like, nope. He's like, bro, will you say something other than nope? And I'm like, what? I'm like, fine, Kevin, I'll look at it with you. And so I went over there and I met him there, and I'm like, yeah, it's a nice building, but I'm like, I'm not interested. He's like, but it's a really good deal, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, like, dude, I'm just running my one store. And he's like, it's a really good deal. It's $1 million. And I'm like, what? I've never even heard those words in the same sentence before. And I can't tell you what happened to make me say, okay, I'll look at this or I'll go forward with it. But I remember that I contacted my banker at the time, which was through a large bank. It's not like a local family bank, you know. And so I was like, hey, I'm considering opening up a second location. He's like, you are? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're only in year, what was it, 2? And I'm like, yeah, but it's like this really good deal. He's like, how much is it? It's like $1 million. He's like, that's not a good deal. And I'm like, that's what I said. But they keep thinking that I'm doing really good there and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden he's like, well, get us the financials and get us this and get us that. And I was like, all right. So I started sending all this to him. And he's like, oh, yeah. He goes, you can afford it. He's like, we're giving you a pre-approval. I'm like, you are? I'm like, you do realize I don't know what I'm doing, right? He's like, well, if you want it, he goes, the bank approved you for it. And I'm like, oh, God. And I don't know what happened, but I said, okay, I'll give this a whirl. And so here's the funny story. As we're building the location out, and again, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm literally figuring this out as I go. As we're building it, I start building my house in Wisconsin. So I'm using the same builder to build my house that's building. It's one of my best friends. And as this guy comes to my house that my contractor you hired to do the electric, I meet this guy. His name's Ed. And Ed's like, hey, you know, it's a nice house and thank you for the work. And I was like, I didn't hire you. The general contractor did. And he's like, oh, well, thank you. He goes, what do you do for a living? I go, I have a restaurant. He's like, a restaurant? I'm like, well, we just bought a second one. And I said, we're building it right now. I said, I think he's going to use you for that one too. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, I got a restaurant for sale. You interested? And I'm like, no. He's like, it's a really good deal. I'm like, no. Everybody keeps saying it's a good deal. It's not a good deal. He's like, it's a really good deal. And I'm like, Ed, no, I'm building one right now. He's like, will you at least come look at it? I'm like, what do you know, Kevin? Do you know the guy from Lake Zurich? He's like, but it's a really good deal. And I'm like, no, I've heard this before. I'm still trying to figure out the Lake Zurich. Okay, we're not even open yet. He's like, but it's really nice. And I'm like, oh, God. I'm like, where is it? He's like, Kenosha. I'm like, no, I'm not. No. He's like, will you at least come look at it? I'm like, you guys are talking the same lingo. Will you at least just come look at it? And so I was like, hey, babe, guess what? I got a third restaurant for us to look at. And she's like, are you nuts? You haven't even gotten the second one going. And I'm like, yeah, but Ed said it's a really good deal. She's like, that's what Kevin said too. And I'm like, will you at least go look at it with me? She's like, why? Why are we going to go look at it? She goes, you're still trying to figure out how to open up a second one, and now you want to look at a third one? And I'm like, but you know that I like challenges, right? So we go and we look at this place, and I'm like, wow, this is a really cool place. It was really pretty. It closed down. It was in Kenosha. Now that was a really good deal. Fully outfitted, ready to go, $400,000. That's a good deal. I was like, hey, Kevin, you want to see a good deal? $400,000 is much better than $1 million. So I still remember the phone call. I was driving from Kenosha back to my house. And I called my banker and I'm like, hey, you know how I told you like I'm really crazy and stupid sometimes? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I got a crazy idea. I'm like, picture it now. Picture the post on Facebook. Crazy restaurant guy who has no clue what the hell he's doing opens 2 at the same time. Can you imagine how many views I would get? He goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. He goes, did you just say open 2 at the same time? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I found another spot. And he goes, bro, you just told me you don't know what you're doing with a second one, and now you want to do a third one? So he's like, give me the information. So I gave him the information, and like a month later, it's like, yeah, you're pre-approved for that. And I'm like, what? So sure stuff. We bought the restaurants 2 days away from each other. We opened up the one and opened up the one within 2. We closed on the one 2 days before we opened up the other one. So yeah. So
How was that couple months of your life?
I'll be honest with you. Going from 1 to 2 was so difficult. Going back to what we talked about earlier, it's learning that I can't be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Once I learned that, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, piece of cake. It's going from 1 to 2 that's the most difficult because you don't have systems, you don't have policies, you don't have procedures. 2 to 3, you got that in place. 3 to 4, you got that in place. And now, at least the barbecue brand, I can open up that with my eyes closed. I can open up, if you can give me a spot anywhere, I can open it in minus the build out in less than 30 days.
Wow.
I know how many trays I need. I know how many forks I need. And I don't even, the crazy thing is I don't even have it written down. I have it in my head. I know what I need. I know how to walk at the walk-in cooler. I can tell you what goes on the top left shelf. I can go tell you what works on the bottom right-hand shelf. Walk in the cooler, brisket's on the bottom. I'm sorry, chicken's on the bottom, pork's here, brisket's here. I know how the whole cooler's laid out at all my stores. And the crazy thing is all the stores are all laid out the same exact way. We have a custom table at all 3 stores that we designed just for our restaurant. It's got a cutting board built into the table with a drawer that slides off underneath it that catches all the brisket drippings. It's the same damn thing. Just each store is flipped. One is on the left side, one's on the right side. But those systems, those policies, it's like now I have my core values. So it's like I call my printing guy. Hey, I need core values printed up. I need menus printed up. I need this. Like I have everything set up. It's just what I need, and it's. I often compare it to. I don't even know what the hell you call the guy, but when you go to like an opera or an orchestra, and the guy that goes like this.
Oh, conductor.
Conductor.
Yeah.
That's what I am. And it's like I tell people all the time, like, listen, if the tuba player faints in the middle of a huge opera, you don't see that dude running over there and start playing the tuba. No, he's like, hey, bring this side up, bring the violins down. He's making that music work with what he's got. And that's what I do. I'm a composer, and so I often tell my managers, I'm like, listen, now we're not going to talk about the Bears, but we're going to say if you're a football coach, you don't see the football coach calling the plays and hiking the ball and running the ball. There's a reason why you look from the outside in to be able to determine what play, what position, and what task to do next. And so that's how running the restaurant is. It's like looking outside in. I can do a lot more problem solving, I guess you can say, by being outside looking in and putting the proper people and policies and procedures in place to make things work.
So what kind of inspired you to go? So you have your brand here.
Yeah.
What inspired you to go to the Station 51?
Oh,
brand?
God. Stupidity again. No. So COVID happened, and my wife and I, as the brands are going and they're moving and, we're successful, we're learning different things, at all the stores. My wife and I said, hey, if we ever had an opportunity, we would like to open up a location in a downtown type setting. Downtown Grays Lake, downtown Antioch, downtown Libertyville at the time, a downtown type setting. Well, when COVID happened, a lot of restaurants didn't make it. And so one of the locations that was there was our old location was David's Bistro. And we used to go there all the time. It was one of our date night things that we'd go to. And so when David's closed, I'd reach out to him and say, hey, man, like, you know, I saw you close. You know, is the location available? He's like, yeah. He's like, I can connect you with the landlord if you want. But I said, hey, can we come look at it? Like, now we're asking, can we come look at it? And so we went over there and looked at it. And, you know, the rent was you know, fairly affordable. And so, you know, I knew that it was too close to the other stores for a barbecue brand. And so I literally met with, like, going back to the night that my mom passed, one of my best friends, Brandon, who's still in law enforcement, and obviously I'm not. And we went to Red Lobster one night, and we're sitting at the bar chatting, and somehow, some way, we got on this talk of Wisconsin Dells. And there's a restaurant up in Wisconsin Dells called the Grateful Shed Truck Yard. And that place is a big, huge, tall building, you know, picture like 20-foot ceilings. And they actually have individual food trucks throughout the whole entire building. So you go up to one and it's pizza, but it's actually coming out of a truck inside the building, but they're stationary. So we started like drawing on this napkin, like, hey, what if we did this and what if we did that? And the next thing you know, we created Station 51. And
That's cool.
To this day, I still don't even remember. I remember we got a logo. I don't remember how or where or what. But at that point, for me, it was so easy because I had already done it with barbecue. And I literally can't tell you how we did things or what we did things. I knew that once we developed this concept that, you know, our barbecue brands are very heavily law enforcement supporting, because that's where I came from. And that's, you know, I wanted to be able to give back to my brothers and sisters in blue that I worked with. And, you know, there wasn't a lot of support for them at the time. And so we wanted to kind of do that. Well, then our friends that worked in the fire service were like, hey, what about us? And so, you know, we kind of came up with this idea and started drawing some plans. Like, what if we did like a firehouse theme where the doors opened up like a fire station, but we wanted it to look like a fire station. My wife and I loved the TV show Chicago Fire. Before my mom had passed away, she loved the TV show Emergency. And then we found out that between the two shows, they had a common interest of Station 51. And so the other crazy thing is my grandparents owned a resort in Monaco, Wisconsin on Highway 51 for 51 years.
That is
so it just, it was there. And so my wife has always had a thing for, she just likes fire trucks, and who doesn't?
Yeah.
You know, every single person in this world sees a fire truck goes by, their ears go,
Yeah.
and they're like, where's that going? It's like a puppy doggy. And so every person has, in the minute that the truck goes by with the ladder on top of it, everyone's like, and so that's what we did. And so I remember that I do remember that I talked to the guy who's doing my logo, and I was like, can you make a logo with a fire truck, but make it a ladder truck look like a food truck? And he did. And so once I saw the logo, I'm like, dude, that's fire. And
all puns intended.
Yeah, it has been difficult because when I say difficult, because we're starting all over. You know, I don't know how many plates I need.
Right.
I don't know how many silverware I need. It's all new. I don't know the dishes. We created a whole new menu. And the funny thing is we created Station 51 to be non-barbecue. Because one of the most popular things, people come in the restaurant and they're like, we had to do a special, it'd be like a skirt steak special. They're like, whoa, you guys know how to cook other than a barbecue? It's like, yes, we do. We're all chefs. Like, I have chefs that work for me. Like, we can cook stuff like mashed potatoes. So we created this in a sense of we wanted to show people, hey, we can cook. And since we've opened it, you know, like, we've had to learn a lot as far as, like, you know, for us, our original goal and original mission that our original mission for that place was that just digging that in.
I'll take that out.
Our original goal and mission for the place was that we wanted our motto to be your phone eats first, meaning that when everything came out, you're like, holy cow, what is that? Like, that's what and you grab your phone and you want to take pictures. Well, what we found is that as we've been going, these extreme portions doesn't align with what the community likes. You know, they get something that's $24 and it's this extensive meal and it feeds 8 people, like, yeah, it doesn't work. So we're starting to scale back. We're starting to change our menu back a little bit. Our menu is based on a food truck concept, with a revolving a menu that evolves and changes every once in a while. We do like every 90 days. We change out these virtual food trucks because we couldn't put the food trucks in the building. So I was like, let's create a virtual digital version of those trucks at that place that we were talking about in the Dells. And we're going to present them on an iPad similar to Tinder. So you swipe left if you like the food truck, you swipe right if you don't. And so, again, it's been fun. It's been creative. It's been every day is different. It has been very stressful, more stressful than the barbecue part because, again, barbecue is on autopilot. It runs. I don't have to do anything there. I'm mostly handling now on the barbecue side, like payroll and bills and financials. Like that's what I really handle there. I'm still in the logistics side of station because we're still growing it and like trying to figure out like what works. And, the town that we're in is a little tough because, we try to do things a little more on the higher end, but the community is wanting it to be more on like middle to lower, cost wise. So we're trying to find that happy medium. So it's been tough. We have a good support system as far as the community goes, but there's also a lot of people that love to bash.
That's for sure.
A lot. And that's been tough because it's like they wake up and they're like, how the hell can we destroy these people? So it's been tough because, we come from a community, in Grays Lake. When we opened up in Grays Lake, I think I'm going to go backwards here a little bit because I didn't even talk about this, but one of the things that set me up for success too in Grays Lake was when we opened up Grays Lake, it's Third Lake, Grays Lake, is that within a month of us opening, past my mom passing away, we got hit by a tornado. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
2014, a tornado came through.
Wow. Okay.
And so we had just opened. And so the night that the tornado happened, it was the Sunday of the Lake County Fair. I remember we just came back. We had all of our food and drinks still in the trailer and in the truck from the fair. Tornado came through. I still remember to this day in Round Lake, there was a place called the Pizza Place. It got leveled.
Yep.
Their sign from Round Lake ended up at the Grays Lake High School. That's how far that. And so the tornado came through and it wiped out. I still remember like it was yesterday, the vision, the images of what the town looked like. Well, that night we immediately took our truck and trailer and we went in the middle of the town and set up. And we fed, in 10 days, we fed just over 10,000 people. And we did it just because.
Yeah.
To this day, people still talk about that. And for me, it was we just did it. There was no like thinking. It was what I was told to do, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It just was the thing that nobody told me, but it was like something hit me and said, you need to do this. Yeah. And that, we come from a community that still talks about it to this day on how much that meant to them. And then we open up Station 51 and we try to do some big things. And we did the thing for the the little kid. And then 6 days later, there's people just saying, hey, how can we bash these business owners? I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So it's like I said, back to Station 51, it's been tough. It's been tough, but we're, we listen, we take in the opinions and suggestions and we try to make adjustments and adapt. But it's a new world, and obviously COVID's changed a lot of things and, we listen, we try to adapt, but it's one of those things where it seems like you can never make everybody happy.
Well, I think that's the thing, man. You can't, haters will be haters.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But I think the important thing that you're doing is, I do like the community involvement. I think that's 100%. Huge. I really do.
Yeah. I
think people do take note of that. And honestly, the fact that you were there is the reason why I think you're here today.
Yeah.
I think that was pretty cool. You rounded up some great people that day.
I'll tell you what, man, I at one point, I'm an emotional sap. But there was one point that night that I got it, that it hit me hard because it was all of the people coming to, all the restaurant owners were cooking together for one cause. And then, when the health inspector came up and they're like, oh, hey, so-and-so from so-and-so restaurant. Oh, wait, hey, so-and-so from the other. Wait, what? All of you are here to.
Yeah.
Wow. She's like, I never thought I'd see the day that this happened. And I'm not going to lie. There was one person who showed up there that it hit me hard. And it was Billy from Anastasia's. Because I've known Billy. I've known him for a long time. You know, I've known him since I was a kid, back when he had a pizza place in Gurnee. And we don't have any animosity toward each other, but we don't hang out. We don't do anything. Like we're not like, we don't go to the bar together. We don't go hang. And that day, he showed up, and I was like, wow. And then he cracking joke. Like, it felt like the guys. And I stepped away for a minute, and I looked back, and it was Billy from Anastasia's. It was, I forgot his name, but the guy from Dockers. I think it was Marco.
Marcos.
Yeah.
Marco. Then it was Brian from Mexican Paradise. It was Kris from, and I just looked, and I'm like, this is freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost it. I'm like, man, this is cool.
Yeah.
You know, this little kid had a huge tragedy happen to him, but this tragedy he's going through has brought some amazing stories and amazing community togetherness out of it. And I'm glad he survived. I'm glad he's on the mend for the better. And it was really cool to see as a community what we were able to do. And I'll tell you what, that night after it was all over, we went back into the restaurant. And we all had a toast and a cheers. And it's like, listen, we got to do this more often. We can't allow it to be a tragedy thing. Like, we can do better together than we can separately.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. And again, that's how I met you. And I met your wife, and I had no clue.
Yeah.
So
that was cool, man.
Yeah.
it was a good mission.
Yeah. So I think that's a great spot to stop.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being on our
Thanks for
podcast.
having me. Yeah, thank you.
I'm sure your stories can be, well received. I'm sure people love the passion, and you threw it out here today, so that was awesome.
Definitely.
We're gonna have to bring him back. I bet he's got more stories in him.
Yeah, I think he does.
You know what's funny is my goal is to write a book one day, and as time's been going on, I've been writing in my iPhone different stories. I just going through the other day, I was telling my manager, I was like, hey, you want to hear some stories of the industry? Because there's a lot of stories. So yeah, one day I'm gonna write a book.
That'd be awesome.
We'll buy it for sure.
Yeah.
We're gonna post links to all your locations and your social media. But so we have BBQ'd Productions in Third Lake, Lake Zurich, Kenosha, Station 51 here in Antioch.
Yep.
We have
The Lehman Mansion.
Lehman Mansion, and you said 6, or is that still?
Yeah, we just
still in production. Whip.
Yeah. It's a long mission, but yeah.
All right, we'll cover that one next time.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
come back on
sure.
the show. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show, and listeners, go eat some barbecue. Go eat some good
Station
food,
51.
truck food, high end food truck food. I love that idea. Love that concept. And
We're known for our lobster rolls.
oh,
We bring our lobster in from the East Coast.
deal.
Sounds awesome. Yeah. Deal. All right, man. Well, thank you there. Thanks again.
Awesome,
Have a good
guys.
one.
Thank you so much.
All right.
You have been listening to the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast. You can hear more real stories from real business owners about what it takes to make it in business by subscribing to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you like what you hear, leave a review and a 5-star rating. This podcast has been brought to you by Kaizen CPAs and Advisors, providing advisory and accounting services to help you grow your business. Learn more at kaizencpas.com.